Hey, Boker Tov, everyone. Good morning and welcome to welcome to Tanya Live. You can see where my head is, right? Welcome to Tanya Live on Tuesdays. And it's wonderful to see all of you joining. Feel free to tell us where you are listening from. And feel free to include how are you feeling this morning? Tes Vav Iyar. We are April 27th, if I'm not mistaken. And hello, Italy. Good morning, Francesca. Welcome. And we are ready to tackle our 48th chapter. Good morning, Sancha. All the way from Thornhill, Ontario. Hope you're feeling good, Sancha. Baruch Hashem. Good. I'm glad that you're feeling good today. And we are going to be tackling chapter 48. As I mentioned to you last week, we are almost completing the first section of Tanya. Good morning, Dorit. Welcome to Tanya Live. And before we get going, we're going to ask everyone who is near a charity box or have access to their wallet, pull out a coin. We always start off our days, whatever we're doing, we start off our mornings, except for Shabbat, of course, and holidays, by giving tzedakah. Gedol tzedakah shemikareves es hageulah, and we all put down a little coin or something. Make sure that one day doesn't pass without giving tzedakah, all right? Because when you give tzedakah, Hashem pays you back big time. Okay, chapter 20. We're going to say Tehillim today. I have a bunch of names, and feel free to jot down any names. Good morning, Denise. Good morning, Arlene. Good morning, two Arlenes. And Esther. Good morning, Esther. Good morning, Barb from Thornhill. All right. We are going to say chapter 20, and I'm going to read some names. You can put down anyone that you know that needs for Shalema. By the way, Mazel Tov, Denise, on the birth of a new granddaughter. Mazel Tov. And, we'll have her in mind, the beautiful little Adina, as we say our Tehillim. Okay, so I have some names here that we're going to daven for. Yaakov Moshe ben Necha, David ben Micha, Yitzchak Moshe ben Rachel Reza, Yisrael ben Chana Matel, Freda bas Yehudis, Moshe ben Miriam, Chana bas Rivka. If you know anyone else that needs her for Shalema, good morning, Corinne. Good morning, Basi Rosenfeld. Good morning, Chana. Corinne, good morning. Yes. Feel free to jot down if you're in California or you're listening from different parts of the world. It makes our class more exciting. Rosalie, good morning. Mordechai Shimon ben Rezel. And we have a Giora ben Dina. Okay, we'll have them in mind as we say chapter 20. Lamnatseach mizmar leDavid yancha Adonai biyom tzara. Yisagefcha Shem Elahei Yaakov yishlach ezrecha mikodesh umitzion yisadeka yiskar kol mechosecha va'olascha yidash nesela yiten lecha chavavecha v'chol atzatcha yimale nirana b'shuasecha v'Shem Eloheinu nidgol yimale Adonai kol mishalasecha Ata yadati ki hoshia Adonai mishicho Yaneu mishmei kocha b'gvuras yesha yimino. Ela v'recha ve'ela v'asosim v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hema karu v'nafolu v'anachnu kamnu v'nisodad. Adonai Hoshia hamelech ya'anenu b'yom karenu. And wishing everyone here, Leah bat Ariela Sarah, and Yisrael ben Ruth, Hili bas Liba, wishing everyone a refuah shlema. And today's shiur and today's learning will be in the merit of a speedy recovery for all those who need one. And feel free to jot down any names as you're listening and learning with us. This is a live interactive class, so for those of you who are joining for the first time, it's not just me speaking, it's constant feedback. And that's what's the beautiful about Facebook. You can put down in your chat, answer questions, give me emojis, so I'll know how the audience is feeling today. So, I know that Rosalie, you said you're feeling good. We had a few people who said they're feeling great. How else is your mood? We're getting closer to getting the vaccines here in Canada. Okay, maybe a little later than other countries, definitely behind Israel, but we're slowly creeping. And for that, we have to say Baruch Hashem. We'll get out of this and we'll be back to normal. But I do hope that when we do get back to normal, we don't forget what we were missing during this COVID time. Because if we forget anything that we've just experienced, what was the point? Nothing happens to us unless we can learn from it. I see Hannah and Barb are hopeful, more hopeful. Kareem, please elaborate why you're feeling anxious. We have a Hashem who loves us, who's watching us, who's nurturing us. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about when God seems to be hidden, so that might actually answer some of your questions. There is too much COVID. Yes, there is. So we have to stay safe, be smart, and keep davening. Just keep davening that the vaccines find their way to Canada. Maybe if us Canadians davened a little more and connected more, Hashem would say, woo! Lots of holiness going on in Canada. I'm going to get some of those shipments there. We also don't have am I allowed to say this on Facebook? We don't have the brightest guy up there in Ottawa. When I think about what Netanyahu did for Israel, you can have all your opinions, and this is not a political course here going on, but he definitely put the needs of the Israeli people first, and he paid double the amount of what it was worth. Yeah, maybe there was political motives, maybe it was business direction, but regardless, Israelis are doing okay. So thank God for that. And Emet Hashem, all of us, Hashem will protect us and guide us and watch us and give us healing very, very soon. Today, I want to talk about the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa. You can see I love art. And I wish you were in charge of the vaccine rollout. You know, my next career will not be in politics. The Mona Lisa. I love art. And you know, I paint. I have my own collection that I've been painting for a while. Denise and I have been studying painting together. We had artists who were teaching us. And in fact, last night I was giving a lecture to a group of Rebbitzins in Melbourne, Australia. It's crazy how with this technology, I could be in Michigan on Sunday night, Australia on Monday night. Today we're all over the world, even reaching Francesca in Italy. Tonight I'm going to be in Minnesota. Technology has allowed us to spread Torah and Yiddishkeit everywhere. That when we says the time of Mashiach will come, that Hashem's holiness and the awareness of God will be like the waters cover the earth. And maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe this is what technology is doing. It's bringing godliness everywhere. So last night I was giving a lecture to these Rebbitzins, and I didn't realize that they were all at a resort. I was stuck at home, but we're at a resort, and I was supposed to fly down there. We had planned this last year, but I couldn't get there because, you know, we're not flying such distances, and I don't even know if they would let me in right now. Anyway, so they were at this conference, and I was sitting at home, but I didn't realize that their screen was like 20 by 40. I mean, it took over an entire wall. So I thought I was just talking, you know, my little phone kind of thing. And my background, for those of you who might know, the COVID background is my painting. You know, that painting of the three mitzvahs of the women, right? It's the painting with the waves of the water, which symbolizes the mikvah. And I have two challahs there for the mitzvah of Beit and Challah, and the candles, the Shabbat candles. These are the three mitzvahs of a woman, and that's my painting that's in my dining room. It's like a large painting. It's like a 6 by 5. Really, really large. And on the bottom, of course, I sign my name. In Australia, they were able to tell from that little signature, they were able to tell that was my painting. And it was really, really flattering that they asked me if I sell my paintings, which I don't. I do one painting a year if I'm lucky. So what's the deal with Mona Lisa? So 2 summers ago, my husband and I were in Paris. We were on our way to Israel, and we had a stopover. And we were there for about 2 or 3 days, and we went to see some of the great attractions. One of them, of course, is the Louvre. And being that we both enjoy art, we did a little tour. And we got to one section of the museum. There was just this massive lineup. You couldn't even come close to see what was everyone crowding around. Finally, after waiting a few minutes, people left, and as we were able to inch closer, we gave a look. There was this huge wall, and on the wall was one simple painting. It was the Mona Lisa. And everyone there was taking pictures and selfies and close-ups. Now, you think about, what's the history of the Mona Lisa? Leonardo da Vinci was a very, very deep and talented fellow who did lots of great paintings, and he was brilliant in many other fields as well. In botany, mathematics, he was known for lots of brilliance and intelligence in this world. However, what he's most popular for is the fact that he's the artist of the Mona Lisa. And yet, really, how did the Mona Lisa become such a masterpiece? I mean, if you look at it, what's the big deal? There's some more beautiful art I've seen in my life. What is it about the Mona Lisa that attracts millions to come to the Louvre in Paris every year, and they swarm to the Mona Lisa? If you know why, please feel free to jot it down. And if you've ever seen the Mona Lisa, give me a thumbs up. I'm curious about the audience here. Probably, Francesca, Italy's a stone throw away from Paris, so I'm sure you have seen the Mona Lisa, but how many of you have seen the Mona Lisa? I'm curious. So how did this painting become such a celebrated piece of art? Oh, I see lots of you have seen the Mona Lisa. All right. Good. So we're speaking to a very, very selective, intelligent group. Oh, there, Francesca has seen it. Karine has seen it. Good. I think lots of you have seen it. A lot of cultured people on this class. Well, who else would want to learn Tanya, right? So how did it become to be? So the story behind this art is very, very bizarre. Basically, the Mona Lisa was completed around 15 feet, 15. Many years it was in a certain chateau. Then it was moved after the French Revolution. It was given to Napoleon. And then in the early 1600s, the early 1800s, it was moved to the Louvre. Okay? It still wasn't very popular. Dorit says, look, she looks like she smiles in some angles. By the way, a lot of art does that, but I'm not an art critique, but I think there's a deeper difference, deeper reason why. Okay, Esther Kestenbaum, I think that you are in the field of art. Am I right? Give me a thumbs up if that is true. But I do believe, I have a picture of the Rebbe hanging in my house. And the Rebbe's eyes follow me wherever I am in my room, in my dining room. So if I'm on the right side, the left side, wherever I go, the Rebbe's eyes follow me. So it could be that there are certain paintings like that. But regardless, what is it about this Mona Lisa? So the Mona Lisa wasn't very well known. It was actually hung in a very insignificant place in a crowded room with a lot of other work. And people would come into the Louvre all the time, and nobody really noticed it. Even art critics weren't blown away by the Mona Lisa, by the way. But then, in 1911, an Italian handyman by the name of Perugia, right, Francesca, I hope I'm saying it right, Perugia, a handyman. He decided that it's so obscure, he was going to take it, he was going to steal it and sell it. And because no one really knew the Mona Lisa, he'd be able to sell it at some kind of bazaar and make some money. And first they arrested Pablo Picasso, they thought it was him. Then they arrested another guy, known as Marc Chagall, also suspected him. But still, they didn't find it. By the way, it took 26 hours for them to realize that the Mona Lisa was missing. Okay? And finally, they found it and brought it back. It took 2 years for them to find this handyman by the name of Perugia. And it was brought back to the Louvre. But something amazing happened. When the Mona Lisa was missing, that's when it became famous. They left the spot in the Louvre empty. So people would come in and see, oh, that's where the Mona Lisa was hanging. And because there was a picture hung up everywhere in all the newspapers, all the magazines, because everybody was trying to track down the thief, people began to discover this piece of art. And then, when it was finally retrieved and brought back to the Louvre, it was then put on a special place in the museum, alone has actually red cord all around it, as opposed to other pieces of art. You can come pretty close, maybe a foot or two away. This one is about a 6 feet space. That is how they are protecting the Mona Lisa. And suddenly, the Mona Lisa has now grabbed world attention. And everyone here has something to say about the Mona Lisa. We have Francesca saying, particular is the point of view, you always have the impression she follows you. Esther is not an art connoisseur. Okay, I thought you were. So, Hannah says she symbolizes happiness. Corinne says she's ugly. Francesca, I wish you can speak into the mic and tell me, how do we pronounce Finzezo Perugia? I mean, am I doing a good Italian accent? I don't think I am. I can do a Brooklyn accent, but I can't do anything more than that. Good morning, Tamara from South Africa. Arlene says, you don't appreciate something until it's missing or gone. And Arlene, you hit the nail on the edge. And I'm messing that one up as well. You totally got the point. What is the point? The point with Mona Lisa is that we didn't, oh, thank you, Francesca. We didn't miss Mona Lisa until she was gone. One of the things I spoke about last night to the Rebbitzins in Australia was absence makes the heart grow fonder. I was giving them a lecture on family purity and mikvah and the 5 love languages, which they were going to be teaching to their community. And one of the things we spoke about was the idea and the value of absence makes the heart grow fonder. And we all know that. We know that whatever you can't have. Listen, today we are in lockdown. We wish we could just walk into a coffee shop with a friend. What wouldn't we do to go out for a coffee with your friend or with your spouse? We're looking forward to walking into museums again and going to a show and a concert. Oh, did we appreciate it enough until COVID hit us last year? I think not. Because when you have something and it's so easy and so available, you don't appreciate it. That's just the nature of the beast. And that is the same thing when it comes to mikvah. Couples who are together all the time, they begin to lose appreciation for one another. And maybe not all aspects, but I've spoken to too many women whose physical component of their marriage, their intimacy, is nothing to be desired for. I have women who've told me they haven't been with their husbands intimately for 5 months, 8 months. I can't fathom that. Because in Judaism, God gave us the mitzvah of mikvah, which means that for the 5 days that the woman has her period minimum, and for the Shiva Nikiyim, the 7 white days thereafter, which is a minimum of 12 days a month, that a Jewish couple should be separate from their husband when they have their period. Those 12 days of absence, those 12 days of longing, makes you appreciate something that most couples in the world take for granted. Oh, I kiss my husband on the cheek every morning. Lovely. You kiss your children too on the cheek. The love between a husband and wife has to be much deeper than a woman and her child, a woman and her mother, a woman and her friend. There's a different level of love that's supposed to be with soulmates. And unfortunately, in our generation, with so many people not appreciating and going to the mikvah, they've missed out on this absence makes the heart grow fonder. In fact, I quote Esther Perel, the author of Mating in Captivity, where she talks so much about the ability to separate and how important and crucial it is for the longevity and the love of a marriage. If a couple separate, there needs to be togetherness and separateness. She didn't make this up. Esther Perel picked up something from the Torah. With all due respect, she's made a bundle on her book, and she's a great speaker, but her basis is taken from the Torah. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And Rabbi Akiva in the Zohar discusses this even more, and he says that's why God gave us the mitzvah of going to the mikvah, because every month a Jewish couple can experience their chuppah again. How do you experience your chuppah? Only if every month you keep those 12 days apart. And many couples will say to me, but it's so hard, it's impossible. You love your spouse. It's so hard not to touch and not to hug. True. But anything that's special, you need to have boundaries. And you need to have separation for. And you need to have a little bit of absence so that you can have that coming together. I heard something so beautiful. If you're together when you should be apart, then you might be apart when you should be together. Just meditate on that a little bit. If you're together when you should be apart, alluding to this time when a chassan and kala and a husband and wife and those who are having the periods, if you are together, but when the Torah says stay apart, then unfortunately when you should be apart, there won't be that joy, that anticipation, that longing, that desire. What about menopause? That's such an excellent question. That was a question they posed last night in Melbourne. Actually, for me, it was Monday night. For them, it was Tuesday morning. They were coming up after breakfast, and I was joining them after dinner. So we talk a lot. I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's okay. It's a two-way class. When a couple appreciate what is the relationship based on Torah. So one of the things that Torah talks about is when the couple is separate, there are things that behaviors that they don't do. So all physical contact actually ceases. And there's a lot of emotional connection, a lot of verbal connection, a lot of talking. It's a kind of relationship that's more of a friend, which today is lacking. You know, couples are sitting on their phones all the time. We don't have that quality time anymore. It's really about connecting. And those 12 days is a lot of talking because you can't be physical. So there's a lot of talking and communicating and sharing ideas and values and goals and desires, needs and worries, and all the important components of communication in a marriage, right? One of the things that we learn about is that the five senses that are so much part of a human being, a lot of it is on hold during this time. And I'll give you an example. Touch. Let's take the five senses, right? You have touch. Husband and wife don't touch each other. They don't hug. They don't kiss. They don't even wipe things off their other's jacket. They don't make brush each other's hair. There's no physical with touch. What about sight? During this time, a man doesn't see his wife undressed. The mitzvah of tznius, which normally does not take place between a husband and wife, during these days of the distancing days when a woman has her period, and for the 7 days thereafter, there is the level of modesty. Yeah. So women are very careful, and men, they keep the laws of modesty with each other during these 12 days. Voices, singing. Believe it or not, Women do not sing during this time because it arouses the desire in their husbands. And every bride will say to me, but Goldie, I have such an ugly voice. It won't turn on my husband. Don't underestimate yourself, women. You are so attractive and so provocative to your spouse that even your voice that doesn't sing on tune is attracting. So we don't sing during these times. Smells. Not to arouse desire, women should not put on their beautiful perfumes that they know specifically arouses their spouse, and vice versa, right? So we don't wear those perfumes, we save them. So we did sight, smell, even eating. We don't share plates. We don't eat from the same dinner plates. We don't, you know how women and men, we like to take from each other's leftovers? Not during this time. We don't take drinks from the same cup. We don't pour each other wine. So there's a lot of restrictions during this time. But you know what this teaches us? Brilliant. Brilliant. If these are the things that we are not supposed to do when we are separate, then how do we act when we are together? How many men and women do touch enough? How many women do and men make sure to make themselves dress beautifully and attractively to each other, their best clothing, their finest lingerie? How many make sure to enjoy drinking from each other's cups and having fun and eating from each other's plates and sharing a dessert plate? Because you can't do that during the nida period, the separation period. Do you do that enough afterwards? So the Torah during these restrictive days is teaching us, what should you do? Do you touch your husband enough? Do you hug enough? Do you take walks and hold hands when you're allowed? Often, when you're sitting in the car. How are you gazing at each other? With loving eyes? Or are your eyes always focused on the phone? Yeah, hi honey, how are you? Yeah, dinner's in the kitchen. What? What's that all about? What's the deal with communication these days? Are we giving each other the quality time we deserve? So that was just to answer your question, Corinne. I'm going to go back to Tanya today. So chapter 48 is talking about this absence. We said the Mona Lisa, she wasn't popular until she was stolen. And suddenly that space in the Louvre in Paris suddenly became the most observed space in the museum. Suddenly everybody wanted to know what was on that space. In Tanya lingo, in Kabbalistic lingo, I'm going to teach you a new word. Feel free to write it down because we're going to be talking about it quite often. The word is tzimtzum. If you've heard of this word before, feel free to give me a thumbs up because I need to have feedback. Tzimtzum. Tzadik mem, tzadik vav mem. What does tzimtzum mean? Tzimtzum means to retract, to condense, to remove yourself. What does this have to do with Tanya? What's the point of Tanya? So we're going to talk today, chapter 48. The topic today is the paradox of tzimtzum. Why diminishment of God's light is crucial. So we know that God is, that's right, contraction. We know that God is what? Is God finite or infinite? Put down in the comments. What would you describe God as? A finite God or an infinite God? Of course, we know God is infinite. God was, God what will be, and God is. God will always be, God always was. Thank you, Lori, He is infinite. He has no parameters. You can't say God is 100 billion. You can't put a limit to God. He is infinite. So if God is, thank you, Dorit and Corinne and Tamara and Rosalie and Francesca and Laura, you're all right. And Dorit said something absolutely powerful that talks about in this chapter 48, which, by the way, 48 equals moach, the brain, the cognitive, right? And so when Hashem created the world, he took his infinite light, his infinite self, and he had to contract himself. Because in order for us to be existing in a world, God had to make space for us. And he so-called removed himself, made a vacuum, and put the world in that space. Because if God is everywhere, which we know God is, but if his presence was so obvious in this world, would we have free choice? Anybody? If God put the world in his infinite light, would we be able to have free choice? Anybody? No. There will be no opportunity for bechira chavshit. There will be no opportunity for free choice because God's overwhelming holiness would be so larger than life that nobody would do anything that was not godly. And then we would have no choice and follow the Torah. And God didn't create the world because God wanted us to have that choice. God gave us a world with a nefesh elokis, remember that? A nefesh bahamis. And he says, I'm putting you in the world that my visibility is obscured. You will not even walk around the world and see God. And we know that. You can walk around in the street and you will see things and you can walk around a whole day without noticing this is God's world. It's sometimes a sunset that you go, oh, wow, Hashem, what a sunset. Or somebody just gave birth to a child and you go, thank you, Hashem. But so many times we're doing errands, we're running in, we're running out. We forget about God. God's not on our consciousness all the time. Why not? If this is God's world, why isn't God so conscious? Because God contracted himself. And he allowed this world to be created in a space where we have to search him out. And from God's absence, that's why we yearn. And our neshama, our soul, is constantly yearning for godliness. We spoke about many times that the ner, the candle, is always, the flame is always going up. You could turn the candle down and the flame goes up. You could turn the candle to the side, the flames goes up. Because the neshama is always searching for God. The question is, are me and you searching for God? Our physical being. Do you wake up every single day and say, I need to search for my godliness. I want to feed my godly soul. I want to live a godly day. I want to think good, holy thoughts. I want to help people all day, only talk Lashon Tov, no Lashon Hara, only goodness, only charity, positivity, emunah, bitachon, all these beautiful words that we've been speaking about in Tanya for the last year and a half. All these things, does it happen to us easily? Does it happen naturally? Well, we know for tzaddik for tovlo and tzaddik for ralo it does. We know for Beinani it does, but what about for me and you? Can we get to that space? And because Andy is right, and because God is absent, because the Mona Lisa Lahavda was removed from the wall, we know we need to search for him. Where is the Mona Lisa? Right? Lahavda, where is godliness? And then it's our job to find him. We find him in our child's eyes. We find him in a new plant. We find him in a budding rose. We find him in a brand new baby. Good morning, Marsha. We find him in sunset. We find him in the mountains. We find him in volcanoes. We find him in the breath we take, in every move we make, right? We find him in the music in the world. We find God everywhere if we search. And if those French people in the early 1600s did not look out for the Mona Lisa, they would have never found her. But we have to search. And we have to wake up every morning, and the first thing a Jew says is what? Put it down in the comments. What's the first thing a Jew says in the morning? And why do we say that first thing in the morning? We say the Moda Ani. Because the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is we say, Hashem, you gave me back my soul. I'm going to look for you. Thank you, Hashem. I'm going to search for you today. My goal today is to have that awareness that you are everything. And although I don't see you, it's not because you're not here. It's because you've contracted yourself. You've removed yourself. You've given us Bechira Chavshit, free choice. And with our free choice, we get rewarded. We get rewarded because God says, you could have ignored me. You could have dismissed my existence. But you, my dear children, Corrine and Arlene and Elaine and Dorit and Andy and Lori and Marcia and all of you, I know I'm missing some of you out, and Tamara and Dorit, all of you, you have all chosen to search for the Mona Lisa. You've chosen to search out for God. If God would have created the world with his obvious infinity, it would have been a no-brainer. And all of us would have served God 24/7. It would have been the most natural thing in the world. Which, by the way, when Mashiach comes, we're told that the knowledge of Hashem will be like entire world covered with water. It will be so obvious, God's existence. But then again, during Mashiach's time, that free choice is gone. So we have to chaparayim, my friends. You know what chaparayim means? We have to chaparayim. We are in the last days of Galut. We are standing on the era of Mashiach. And any moment Mashiach will be here, which is what we are waiting for. Ani Mamin Bamuna Shalema. And even more than that, we sing on screen, we want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach to come. But you know, once Mashiach comes, we won't be able to do all these specific mitzvahs that are so hard for us today. Judging others, thinking good about other people, reaching out to help a person, drop off a meal, drop off a challah, light an extra Shabbos candle, give extra tzedakah. Yeah, take your charity, make sure you give more than 10%. Like Hannah says, take the opportunity. Arlene says, grab it all in. Because once Mashiach comes, that's going to be done. We're still going to be busy all day doing good, but it's going to be easy then. Now you and I struggle with the Nefesh HaBahamis and the Nefesh Shalakis. Mashiach comes, it won't be a struggle. The Nefesh HaBahamis will be gone. I'm wishing you a day to grab it all in. Take the opportunity. Take every opportunity to do a mitzvah and do it. Because Mashiach might come and you'll wish we would have done more. Wishing you a great day. Take care.